Hey, fellow travelers. I know you're used to seeing me in my hiking clothing, right? This is my first time I'm ever doing an in-studio kind of broadcast or kind of video for everybody. So I hope it works. That's all I can say. Having a lot of trouble with microphones and all that stuff. That's the way it goes. So anyway, I'm here today to talk about stoves. I did a little intro in another video, the Why a Bald video that I did recently, talking about stoves and winter use and all that stuff. So, what we've got here, I'll get right into it. What we've got here is your classic, see if you can see it right there. It's the Whisper Light Pocket Rocket 2. Okay, I don't know what the difference between the one and the two is, but that's what's available now is the two. Um, and so everybody knows this stove pretty well, and all the other ones like it, the BRS and all those other variations. They're really exactly the same stove. What you've got here is a very, very simple carburetor. You've got a compressed fuel source in here. It's under high pressure. And when you open the valve right here, what happens is the compressed gas evaporates. It flows out of the tank. These little holes here are for mixing air and fuel together, just like in a carburetor on your car. Now, of course, we use fuel control systems, but in the basic carburation days, this is exactly the same thing. Compressed gas comes out, mixes with oxygen here, gets channeled and you know contained and comes out up here as flame. You light it up here. Obviously, it's got these little nozzles, or little holes that the gas comes out of. You ignite that, creates flame, warms up your pot, warms up your coffee. It's very, very basic. And they pretty much all follow exactly the same pattern. This has become the stove or the type of stove that we use for 99% of our use in 3 seasons, spring, summer, fall. And it works very well all the way down to about 0 and thereabouts. At that point, you start having problems because of the very nature of this fuel tank here. It's under pressure, and we all know that as temperature increases, the pressure inside of here will increase. If this is summertime, this is kind of warm. So it will have a lot of pressure, shoot a lot of that fuel out. You'll have a good flame. Once it gets cold, this thing doesn't there's not so much pressure. There's not much evaporation going on inside. It just doesn't create as much pressure. And so therefore these stoves just don't work that well when they get very cold. The quick fix to that is, well, number one, don't go camping when it's cold. That's what most people do. I get it. Uh, Most people are not like me. I have a need to sleep outside every couple of weeks. So when I live in an urban environment, it's kind of tough on me. I need to be outside. I'm just that way. I'm an outside guy. What can I tell you? So the quick fix to that is, well, you take your fuel tank and you stick it in your sleeping bag at night. You keep it warm. It's over there, of course. The other tank that I use, this is usually the size that I would use for backpacking. These little guys hold quite a lot of fuel, quite enough for a weekend or even a week if they're full and you're careful. This is just used. I use this as a main fuel tank now. I've got one of those fuel transfer valve things, and so this becomes my main fuel source. I buy one of these, and I can fill 2 or 3 of these from this one tank. This costs what, $1 or $2 more, $3 more, and it's more than double. It's less than the cost of buying multiple ones of these. Plus, in the old days, once this was done, you just threw it out. Really good idea to, if you are going to throw those out, recycle them. But please don't toss them out just like this. Puncture the can. Okay, there are things that are made to puncture the can. You can use a hammer and a sharp object and do the same thing. Totally up to you. Again, be careful though when you do that. Again, it's still got some gas in there, some compressed gas. So you wanna be careful with these things. Um, but that's how you should dispose of them. So, anyways, this aside, I wanted to use this just for illustrative purposes because it's nice and big and it's easy to see. So you've got basically your compressed gas type of stove, your cartridge stove, it's known as, and then the other type of stove that it used to be in favor. This is another Whisper Light, another MSR stove called the Whisper Light International. This is the actual stove. See, I'll do it against the whiter background so you get a better look at it. My shirt's a little too dark. So what happens is this folds up. These legs are just, it's very crude. It's a very crude machine. And these legs fold up and the fuel line folds up and it goes inside of a bag like this. Boom, goes inside of there. I bought this one back in the 90s. I've had this one for a very long time. And the reason that I got this one is that I traveled, in those days, we lived in Manhattan. And I worked at Eastern Mountain Sports. And and cartridge stoves were brand new back then. Things like this didn't really exist, or should be this actually, didn't even exist back then. Um, and also the reason that I used a gasoline stove is that we traveled extensively by motorcycle. And in those days, it was a carbureted motorcycle, so I could simply take the fuel can. I've got one here, but it's out in the car. I filled it up with gasoline. I didn't bring it inside the house, so it's outside. But I could just take the fuel line off my gas tank on my motorcycle, stick the fuel tank for the stove up there, open the fuel petcock, get some gas in there, shut it off, and I could cook my meals. When I was done, there'd be some left over in the fuel tank, pour it back into the gas tank of the motorcycle, let everything kind of air out for a little bit, and then be on our way. And that worked great. I also did not want to, at that point, since cartridge stoves were really pretty new on the market, didn't really want to have one in my apartment in Manhattan. I figured if there was a fire, then this is a bomb, basically. Just yet another insult to injury. So anyways, I went with a gasoline stove. There's a third type of stove that's out there. Okay, I'm a little bit ahead of myself, sorry. The beauty of gasoline stoves and the fuel tank and all that stuff is just like with your car. Um, the gasoline will evaporate even at very cold temperatures. You will be able to run it at very cold temperatures without any issues. And the cold doesn't really affect the outflow of the fuel, doesn't affect the fuel itself, doesn't affect its outflow from the tank. So if you're in considerably colder weather, for a long period, a week-long trip through the White Mountains of New Hampshire, your cartridge stoves, depending on temperature, might work just fine, might not. The gasoline stoves will work no matter what, no matter where, anywhere in the world. You can get some petrol, gas, whatever they call it, and this thing will burn it. So there's some definite. Each style of stove has its pros and cons, basically. There's a third type. It's a hybrid, I guess you could call it that. And I bought one a couple years ago when I first moved to this area because I just simply wasn't aware of how this stove would perform at zero or in very cold temperatures. And I wanted to kind of experiment a little bit. So I bought this, of course, on our favorite website. And this is what's known as a remote canister stove. It's got a fuel line on it, just like the Whisper Lights, which goes to a tank. You simply thread it on. Now, whenever you're putting these fuel lines on, you want to make sure that the fuel shutoff valve is closed off. That's on this one, that's on the whisper light, that's basically any of them. Before you hook it up to the tank of fuel, make sure that the valve is off so you don't spray whatever fuel it is all over yourself. So these work, whoop, there we go. It's just like the whisper light. You can see the similarities, right? A good thing about this is, let's see if I have it with me. The whisper lights or the remote canister stove, let's just pretend that's the fuel tank, often come with these windscreens. You can unfold this. MSR, sells them separately or with the stoves. And this goes around the stove and leaves the fuel tank outside of this enclosure. Manufacturers often caution against using this type of windscreen on this type of stove, the cartridge stove, because what happens is it just contains the heat too much and your fuel tank is right down there. Will it explode? I hope not. Could it explode? It could. I think it's pretty far-fetched that it would, but by the same token, it would really ruin your weekend if it did. So let's just not use this kind of windscreen on this kind of stove because the tank is right there. However, when the stove is separated from the tank, the burner, let's see if you can see that. It's kind of tough here. You can use these all day long. Doesn't matter if the fuel source, doesn't matter if it's cartridge or if it's liquid fuel like for this one. You can keep that very well shielded from the wind. And then also in cold weather, a really, really good idea to have some kind, this comes with this stove also, some kind of shield for the bottom. Again, if it's a 3-season thing, you put this on a log, you put it on a rock, you put it on a picnic table at a shelter. It doesn't matter. You're cooking, okay? If you are in the snow, you put this hot thing in the snow, it's going to melt down into the snow and fall over and make a mess and create a problem. So something like this would be great to put underneath it. And that way you can use this thing just about anywhere you are. Okay? And they both work the same. The idea is, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. So what happens on the liquid fuel stove? Here's the tank, here's the inlet, fuel, liquid fuel comes out of here, mixes around this tube, which is very important, and then goes down into here. Now you may not be able to see it. I did an outside video as well. I'm going to edit that into this so you can see how this actually works outside. This is pretty filthy. These things do get filthy. I'm sort of a neat freak, so I'll mention that a few times, but they do. They're crudted up with carbon. They're down in here is a little cup, and it collects liquid fuel. They also have a fiberglass wick, so that what you do is you crack open your tank, you let a little bit of fuel get into this, and then you shut your tank. Very important. Then you light this down, you light this part down in here. See if you can see it better. And what you're doing then, the reason that you're doing that, this is kind of warming it up, basically. This starts on fire. It's going to engulf the windscreen up here and the nozzles. This is the nozzles for the flame. And very importantly, this tube. Remember I said that the fuel comes around, up through this way, and then back down in here. Feeds into here. What this tube actually is an expansion chamber. When the cold fuel comes through here and hits this metal, it heats up. It evaporates. it goes through this little thing just like in a carburetor, and then it shoots out down here. After you've got done priming and heating it up, you then open the fuel slowly from the tank, and what will happen if you do it right, the flame will start coming out of here, and you're turning off the warm-up flame and turning on the cooking flame. You can see, you can hear it. It makes a tiny little roar, just like these stoves do. You can hear it, right? Um, and so you just kind of open the valve, keep opening the valve, and then eventually what happens is the flame takes over and comes out of here, like it should. These surfaces, it's stainless steel, they glow red hot. That's how hot this thing gets. Every stove does. Don't touch a stove. They're red hot. They will burn the heck out of you. If you happen to not catch that little sequence, it's a little tricky. First couple times you do it, you may not catch it right. Doesn't matter. If the flame goes out down in here, it doesn't matter. If your tank is still open, now you take your lighter and you start trying to ignite the flame source up here. It will catch up here versus down here. It will. And then after you get good with that nozzle with the fuel pump, the fuel shutoff valve, you'll get it. It'll work. The flame here disappears and starts coming out up here and starts roaring. And it's all because of this little tube right here. Now, the reason I bring that up and drive that point home is that this particular remote canister stoves don't all have that same feature. Some do, some don't. The ones that don't have that feature are going to operate like this one. You must have the tank upright, and it must use vaporized fuel in order to burn. There is no further mixing with air. The beauty, when you get them, see, here's that little tube right in here, if you can see that. Okay, it's a little copper thing. You'll see these when you're looking at, oh, should I get this one, or this one? If you want to use it inverted, if you want to use your fuel tank inverted, you're going to need to find one that has one of these tubes in it. It does the same thing that tube on the Whisper Light does. Again, it's an expansion chamber. When you have one of those, this little pipe gets really hot. That's where the liquid fuel will now become vaporized so it can mix with the air and then burn efficiently up in here. So what I have done before, I bought this is a really cheap one. It's kind of big, it's kind of clunky, and it's kind of heavy. But I thought, whatever, I'll try it. It's a proof of concept kind of purchase. And I used it a few times and realized, I don't really need it. I'm not below zero, just not a thing for me. I've got it if I need it. And it wasn't that expensive. It was about 40 bucks. It wasn't that bad. It's another BRS product, by the way. So you know where it comes from. But anyways, what I would do, and I have started it completely inverted. Open the valve and just, this particular one has a piezo igniter on it. Not all of them do. But probably the easier way to do it, if you can, get the stove started in the upright position. That way you're feeding off the gas that's on top of the liquid in here. And then flip it over. And that way it's only feeding liquid fuel. The gas is now up here. And because of this tube, it will keep running. So it's more stable in cold weather. All you have to do is get it going, basically. And so that's kind of the big thing I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to show you the three basic types of stoves that are out there. Which one is right for you? Well, as you can see, I've got 3 of them. So it's not so much a matter of which is right all the time. It's which is right for this particular use. Like so many of our the gear that we use, I have a wonderful summer quilt. I just love it. I just got it last year, the Zen Bivy 25-degree quilt. I love that thing. Will I use it tomorrow when it's, the temperatures are in the teens and the winds are in the 30s? No. I'll use it in conjunction with my other bag, right? So, there's a time and place for everything. Uh, Obviously, this can be used anywhere in the world at any time, uh, under any conditions, bar none. That's what it's made for. Um, there's a regular Whisper Light. This is the Whisper Light International, which is the big difference in those two models is this tube. The regular Whisper Light, the tube is about half the size of this one, maybe 2/3 the size, and it's designed to run on very clean fuel. Coleman fuel typically is what it's called. Um, Coleman fuel is basically gasoline that doesn't have the additives required to work in an internal combustion engine. Okay, the anti-knock additives, the antifungal additives, the blah blah blah, all the way down the line. It's more of a straight kind of petroleum thing. That works. That could work in this stove. I ran the stove for 10 years with nothing but unleaded gasoline. You can use leaded, you can use kerosene, you can use basically anything that doesn't have water in it, basically. Um, and then these, obviously, we all know and love. These are great for most of us, most of the time. No muss, no fuss, clean, simple, and easy. Lightweight, portable, we love them. And then this one is somewhere in between. This is for that person who doesn't want to mess with the gasoline and the carbon and the crap. This gives you the ability to run inverted without all the muss and fuss. So, hey, there's something for everybody, right? Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of a neat freak. Well, that probably sounds really loud. Anyway, I hope that that answered some questions for you. I hope you found some value in that. If you do, and then also don't forget I've got the outside video I'm going to tag along right after this, and you get to see me outside actually starting up the Whisper Light. And I had forgotten when I was doing it, I was wearing a lavalier like I have today, and I forgot to take it off and put it next to the stove so you could hear it burning, But trust me, I did get it burning, and it did work. And I'm thinking about taking it this weekend, but hopefully it's not going to be that cold. All right. So hey, once again, thanks for checking in with me, and thanks for tuning in. And I hope you got some value out of this. And once again, like, subscribe, tell your friends. If you have any questions, by all means, I'm all ears. I love to answer questions, and I hope to hear from you guys. Okay. Thanks so much. Have a great day.